Hi everybody, Mayor BK here, and welcome back to another episode of Bay County Delmarva. A lot to get to in this episode, but first just a little bit of a recap on episode 3. So if you remember, in episode 3 we worked quite a bit in the northern half of Franklin. We learned a little more about one of the early mayors in the city's history, Bartholomew J. Sterrett, and his plan to expand Franklin to the north and east towards the bayfront. We also jumped a little bit in the history books and went up to North Franklin. We developed the northwest side of the downtown and an interchange with the highway that cuts across the north side. Working up there, we developed quite a bit along the access road to the highway, auto-oriented development, and then we worked developing the neighborhoods that lie to the northeast. If you remember, we also learned about the Sterrett Manor, and here's a good look at that. It lies on the southeast side of Franklin, and the Sterretts purchased quite a bit of the property on that southeast side. Bartholomew J. Sterrett was balancing two competing interests, his family's estate and property, and getting a buffer between that and the growing city, as well as then becoming mayor and having the pressures to grow the city and continue developing inside the city limits. And we're going to go back to that era and work on this east side of Franklin, east of the Central Park, and go back and see what the Sterrett era development was. Again, his main focus was pushing the development north and east away from his property. We're going to also push a little bit south and east and form a boundary of the Sterrett Manor in this episode. But first, let's go back downtown and go back into the Central Square. I want to do some work here with Central Square and this church. And it's a really nice asset. We're going to use it later in the series. St. James Episcopal Church asset based on a real church in New Jersey, so it fits our coastal Northeast Mid-Atlantic theme. But I'm going to go in right now, and I think I have a better asset that fits the size of this property a little better. Yeah, that looks much better in size. So we're going to take away the St. James Church and replace it with this. And I'll put the asset creator in the lower third. I'm blanking on the name right now. But this New England church works. It's a similar style, but it just has a little more grandeur and it's a little larger of a structure that fits with the cityscape. So we're going to work in around the church here and detail a little bit of the area around here. I'm just getting a measurement. I want to make sure it's lined up pretty good. It's just a little bit off. So going in to move it here and just nudge this over just a little bit just to center it up with the central square. That looks pretty good right there. And that has some nice views. You can see there's some really nice views down that street behind the church. It just adds a really nice view corridor there. A nice focal point for our downtown. I noticed that in the last episode, we needed to de-zone a couple squares there by the library. All right, let's go in and detail the landscape around the church here. Get some paths connecting this space and also get some trees in here. While we have a little space here with the development behind the church, I do want to go and get a path connecting it back to that neighborhood. That's a nice location that you can walk to church, walk to the central square, and anytime we have a little opportunity before really getting a big development in there to add some pedestrian connections, that's a good thing. Not always popular building a pedestrian path between two houses, but they are living just a block away from the center of the city, so you can expect that they're a little more comfortable being close to their neighbors. grab some of our favorite trees and let's get this area by the church landscaped. Still recovering from that little fire that was in that area in a previous episode, so those trees don't look quite as good as we're planting them, but they'll fill out here as that area continues to recover. And a couple larger oak trees just flanking the church. All right, pretty simple little build there detailing that area, but that looks really nice. I think it matches with the theme. We've added parking on the side there that can be used for the church, but also anyone that wants to walk into the central square area. And then we've added this path back in the back, allowing that neighborhood to cut through to the church. You can just imagine this area has, concerts in the summertime, festivals, maybe some community yard sales, and just a great place, a great focal point for the community to get together. You can imagine some coffee shops and cafes off the central square. And that church just adds a nice little touch to this. All right, so that's a pretty good area there for downtown. Now let's get back up and continue the Sterrett planned expansion in that northeast side of the city. We started that expansion towards the bayfront, and we're gonna work here towards the next milestone, going from busy town to big town. That adds quite a bit: campus areas, metro, a lot of city services, intercity bus. It's also gonna add wall-to-wall residential buildings and high density zoning, so that enables us to continue growing the city, as well as office zoning, a bunch of other disaster and city service assets. So let's continue that push towards the next milestone. We'll start growing the eastern city limits. First, just continue this road down. Continue development towards the bay eventually, but it's another boundary road that forms along the eastern edge of Franklin. And then let's just do a little survey point here. We can again use the cleared out plots of land to define the city border from the original city. So we'll add a survey point here and take a road up along that tree line. And then connect that road down to that survey point. That provides a good northeastern boundary of the Franklin city limits and an area that we can fill in with zoning here. So we'll continue this grid. It's oriented towards the bay, and I like that on this side of the city. We still have some east-west direct roads like this one coming from the elementary school. Lower off the frame is also Main Street that continues east-west. So those will be nice areas we can adjust the grid and break the grid a little bit. And it's giving me a little trouble right here. There, that'll work. So I want to continue a 20 by 10 grid when we can. And again, we'll break the grid here a little bit, especially where these east-west roads coming in. I'm going to get the rest of the roads in this area laid out, and then we'll come back and zone it up. All right, now that we got most of that northeast section of Franklin laid out, I want to go to this east side and continue this road out past Franklin Rocks City Park. And also this road is going to help define that northern edge of the Sterrett property. Also upgrade Main Street all the way to the edge of the Franklin city limits. We can upgrade this boundary road too on the northeast side. It's going to collect quite a bit of traffic from this neighborhood here. I like how this area came out. The angles change up a little bit to create 90-degree junctions as much as possible. So it takes a gridded area and it makes it just a little bit different. And then we can also upgrade these roads along the park. So this area east of Franklin Rocks also gives us an opportunity to change the grid orientation a little bit and just switch it up a little further, creating a little more intrigue and a little more variability with the grid designs in Franklin. So we'll make this area 14 by 10, and that'll make a really walkable area here for this neighborhood as well. And you would figure that if they're moving into this area with a close proximity to the park, that this neighborhood, it is going to be a nice neighborhood that prefers walking and recreation. For now, let's get rid of all the pipes underneath the roads, and then we'll get everything zoned up and continue expanding the city. Let's get this new area zoned up. Pretty much this is going to be all residential. We'll add some commercial along the major roads, but for the most part this is population growth. And Bartholomew Sterrett and the Sterrett family are happy that the majority of this population growth is headed away from the Sterrett Manor. This area here by the East Main Street, we'll add the commercial. And then also up along this road, we'll add commercial as well. Interesting, this wasn't zoned, so we'll go in and force zoning and get that filled in. So there we go. That area is all zoned up, mostly again residential, but that adds a nice section here. So we'll hit play and start developing that area. So you'll see those fill in. Just want to check the city boundary and make sure everything that we zoned is in the city limits, and it is. Fast forward to bring in the development a little quicker. Just checking with any big development like that, I just want to check our utilities. Garbage processing is a little low. Electricity, we need another power plant as well. So we still don't have a ton of power options. We do get more power options in the next milestone, but for now, let's just get another power plant, just a vanilla coal power plant, and we'll put it further out along the edge of the industrial area. actually, while we're out here, have some industrial demand. So let's extend this road out a little bit. I also want to put another power plant there. So we put our power plant in, create a little larger of a power plant in that footprint, and then we can decommission the original power plant. That'll help with the water processing. We can add another eco inland water treatment plant. Get that eco water treatment plant connected up, and that immediately is impactful. So now we have plenty of electricity. We have plenty of water treatment. Water availability is a little low, so for now just adding another water tower will work. And this area here by the school, there's this weird little triangle between the grids. I think that works really nice. You can imagine the school might have their mascot painted on the water tower outside the school, taking what could be an eyesore into a fun little neighborhood project. And strange, it sunk it into the ground. So let's just quickly go into move it, object height it to that road, and that brings it up. So now plenty of water availability, plenty of electricity. Garbage processing is still a little bit low. We can correct that and add another recycling plant. And just wait till this money pops in from the budget. Meanwhile, let's look at the budget here. Since we added the power plant, we can bring that back to 100. And then while we're in here, let's just take a look at our city services. There we go, big town. So we've hit the population of 7,000. And yeah, a ton of stuff comes with big town. A bunch of new policies. The big one is high density zoning and office zoning. And then a bunch of those city services, disaster response services, and additional transportation options. So congratulations, Franklin. Up next, we're going to keep pushing this city. I think we can do it in this episode towards small city with a population of 10,000. That also gives us access to the train, and that's going to be important in expanding the rest of Bay County. All right, so back to the budget. Let's boost the city services up a bit. Just kind of future-proofing it while we were in the budget anyway. Take it up to about 75% for the police, and then we'll do the same for fire. All right, now that we have the budget too, we can add a second recycling center into our utilities campus on the northwest side of town. So we have power, water, sewer, and recycling upgraded. Let's look at traffic. Traffic is not great. That city center is a bit of a mess right now. And then on the northeast side, that traffic up by the school. As we keep upgrading roads, that should help a little bit too. Pollution pretty confined to that northwest side of town. Fire protection is okay. Maybe eventually having to add another police substation on that eastern side of town where we've just expanded. And then I'll also check the healthcare. Healthcare still just above capacity. I can raise that up a little bit too. We'll bring it up just like the fire and police to 75%. So that should help future-proof the healthcare capacity. Let's check the city stats. You can see we have a pretty good trend in population growth. Some of those little blips were when we had to, redo things. Our city treasury has been going up. We just spent a ton on utilities, but other than that, our treasury continues to increase with our population. So we'll get back to that high here pretty quickly. and our tax base continues to increase, so that's good as well. And then the value of our city is also increasing really steadily. So a good time here that we hit this milestone to check those benchmarks, statistics, and services. Let's now focus a little more on the southeast side of town, and this is where we have to balance out development with the Sterrett Manor. So I just want to square off the boundary of the Sterrett Manor with this road that we brought out. I'm a little picky about these borders, probably too picky for the game mechanics, but we'll try and get it even across that road. And same here, we'll get it to border Sterrett Blvd on the south side of Franklin right now. And I want to take this road out here to the south, and this will be a border and marker for the western boundary of the Sterrett Manor. So there you can see more of the shape of it. The Sterretts, even though they've sold off some of the property for development, they've still kept quite a bit of their land and all of their bayfront land and bayfront views. So we're gonna take the Sterrett Avenue and continue it out from a dead end and get it connected up to that development that we expanded to the east and northeast side of the city. This gives us an opportunity to shrink it down a little bit from a super wide boulevard to use one of our avenue roads. And whoa, that connected really weird. So we'll play around with this node and get it connected up. Go into node controller and see what we can do here to get this looking a little better. Node controller is not helping. I think there's an extra node in there and that's the issue. Let's just redo this. It still does not like this connection, so let's go in here and play around with it a little bit. There we go, that's a much smoother connection. So now just reverse that, and that looks better already. Go back to the node controller last time here. And just take node controller, stretch this node out, smooth it out a little bit. That's what we were going for in the first place. And then let's go into Traffic Manager and just get some junction controls. We don't need crosswalks there. It's not a real intersection, it's just a road widening out. So we'll make sure that traffic flows through that. And then go into the intersection marking tool and just connect the lanes through this. Just go into Traffic Manager again and just double check, make sure the lanes are defined and everybody stays in their lane. And then we'll continue the expanded Sterrett Boulevard up to the northeast. And this is going to interfere with some of that development that we just added. So before it gets too established, let's just pretend we didn't zone those. I'm just going to take out some of these blocks, just make it real easy for us. I want to get it connected up to that road, probably close to where it intersects with Main Street. Yeah, just stretch this out to the northeast. This intersection's a good candidate for another roundabout. I'll pause the game while we have half of a neighborhood bulldozed. Okay, coming out of a save, let's get this roundabout built. So first get the junction created, and then I can go into Roundabout Builder and select the size of roundabout, and I think that default size will work just great. Get these connections to the roundabout upgraded, and then let's bring in Sterrett Boulevard from the southwest. We'll get it on a 90, and then I might change this angle just a little bit. Yeah, let's back this up and just connect it from the part of the road that's dropping down the roundabout. That's a better angle, I think, right there. And then we can come in and take the unified UI and take the curve tool and just smooth the curve out a little bit. Yeah, that's better right there. And then do the same up here and curve it into that roundabout a little smoother. That looks nice. And now that we have the boulevard in, we can go back in and lay these roads back out. All this residential expansion on the eastern and northeast side of Franklin needs places to work and shop, so these commercial lots will be good along the boulevard here. And I haven't decided yet. It'll probably be a park of some sort. We'll get the Main Street connection to the lighthouse realigned here. Just back it out a little more so we can have a sweeping curve. So again, probably a future park. We'll leave that for a future episode in development. So now we have this area across from the Sterrett Manor that we can also get zoned up. And I want to keep a similar grid here that we had on the south side of the park. I made sure that the roads that do intersect the Sterrett Boulevard here are coming in at 90-degree angles. Even if the roads themselves go out on a different angle, at least the connection points are. And just like the rest of this area, we're going to zone this up and have some commercial lots available along the boulevard. This lot here on the corner is a really good lot, I think, for some commercial development. And I want to add a Food Lyon to this area. So let's size it, and it's just a little bit too big, but I really like this property to fit this grocery store. So let's see if we can make it work here. Unfortunately, it's just a little too wide to fit exactly in that block. So I'm gonna back this road out. place it down now and get it roughed in a little bit with the layout for the roads around it. It's going to be a location in the city. It's not exactly a suburban location, so it can have a slightly smaller parking lot. So we'll use parking lot roads, and that just defines the space here of where the food line is going to go here. And I just want to make this all even. Right now there's a little bit of a slope. It's not much, but it's going to mess especially up with the parking lot roads, and that's going to mess a little bit with the terrain between the roads, but we can just come in and just clean that up a little bit. Terrain that we're flattening isn't that big anyway, so this is something that could realistically happen here before development. And it's better for the intersections too. That way you don't come up over a small hill and basically be in a blind intersection. So smoothing this out actually is good for traffic safety. And this is fill that the city can use to either shore up water frontage or use to build a overpass. So while we're here, we just smooth out a little bit of the bumps along the Sterrett Manor as well. Get that area prepped for future development too. That we'll get to building the Sterrett Manor in a future episode as well. Actually, I want to back it out a little bit. I want to give a little bit of a buffer. So I think we're going to end up taking a little more than the original block that I estimated. Let's start there. And that'll give us a buffer between the Food Lyon and the back road. All right, that looks pretty good. Got the parking lot plopped in. And while we're working in this neighborhood, I just want to upgrade all these neighborhood roads in here to paved roads. Especially that we're skipping around in the time frame of the city for a little bit, but a shopping plaza like this would have developed in the 20th century with paved roads already around it. just want to see here what a connection directly into the Food Lyon Plaza would look like. It's something you would think Food Lyon would want, is a direct connection to Sterrett Blvd. Just nudge this over a little bit, and that creates actually a pretty nice little slip into the plaza. Remove a couple of these parking lot spots to give cars enough room to move in, and I think that looks nicer. This new neighborhood definitely needs some parks, especially the parts that are further away from the city park. There's a look at the Food Lyon in the parking lot, and yeah, you can see some cars already utilizing it, so that's nice to see. And yeah, it's a great lot for this. It has nice sight lines to Sterrett Blvd. I think that'll continue to become a major road in the city of Franklin, so even gives some room there for some outlots. So we'll D-zone this right along Sterrett Blvd, and Food Lyon basically owns that whole block. Speed up the time frame, and we'll let the new areas zone in. And yeah, we can continue developing some commercial along Sterrett Blvd. Trimmed into the Sterrett Manor a little bit, but when we drew out the space for it, it was a bit of a blank slate. So now we've defined it a little better. I like that, even though we've cut a little bit into their property. And maybe the Food Lyon was part of their property at one point. We've given it a definite boundary now. And I don't see the Sterrett Manor property shrinking much further anytime soon, at least through the 1800s and 1900s, and we'll have to see way down the road as we continue to develop Bay County what happens in the 2020s and beyond. But right now I don't see that Sterrett Manor shrinking too much. Just make sure this new area is connected with pipes, and that should work, getting the pipes under the road. Alright, so moving on from the Food Lyon development, I want to go back in time and skip back to the earlier time in Franklin when the city was growing. In the early days, the port was really important to growing the town, bringing commercial goods, industrial goods, and people from the larger cities in the Northeast, and even internationally as an international port. You maybe remember this is Port Street that comes out of the city center and crosses Sterrett Blvd by one of our elementary schools. We're going to continue Port Street down towards the water line, and we'll work on our port in a later episode, but I want to get this neighborhood roughed out here near the port. And then I want to measure this out because the assets are 3 by 3. So I want to have each block divisible by 3. So let me get this area roughed out with the road layout, and then we'll come back to you. now that the road layout is in place, I want to create a new district here because we're going to lay out a special theme for this district. And this is still part of Franklin, but the reason it's getting its own district is for the specific building theme that I want this neighborhood to have. You may have seen it while I was in the time lapse. I bumped the one road that borders the Sterrett Manor property just back a little bit. So I think that's going to be the final change to the Sterrett Manor, just for simplicity's sake, making that last block divisible by 3s. And just clean up the Sterrett border. So that really should be the last adjustments to the Sterrett Manor property. And I do like that we've now defined its border pretty fully. And this is the Harbour Park neighborhood of Franklin. And we have some great Georgian Philly row homes that really fit the theme of a mid-Atlantic Delaware Valley city that we're building here in Bay County. These are great assets, and I'll list the name of the asset and the creator in the lower thirds here. I just want to check in. I don't think we're going to have many other things in this neighborhood, but just in case, we'll take the Old Town Industrial and Commercial Brick, although primarily this neighborhood is going to be residential development. Pause the game and get these out of here. And now we'll go in, and the block near the elementary school is going to be a little different, but we'll work with it. And what I want to do is checkerboard zone this. I want to micromanage it a little bit. We can also go in and clean up the terrain between the streets, but I can do that at a later date. Before this area zones up, let's remove the trees from the development. That way we don't have any trees popping through. And then you'll see these Georgian Philly row home assets popping in. And I forgot this area needs water, so we'll get pipes laid under the roads, and I'll come back to you once we get the pipes laid out. All right, so we'll let it run while we get some money back into the city budget. But here's these assets, these Georgian Philly row homes. They're really nice assets. They come pretty much 3x3. There's a 3x2 and then also a 3x4. And what I did is I went in with Bob and replaced the trees to fit our landscape here. So that makes the area cohesive to the rest of the city as well as the map. And you can see how bumpy this landscape is here. We can go in with our unified UI and smooth some of these roads out. I just want to smooth out the ups and downs. So you can see there going from 4 to 1 to about 2.5 each, I think works a lot better here. Yeah, 1.6 down on each set. So I'm going to go through real quick and just smooth out some of these hills. And then once we do that, we can go in and adjust the terrain between the roads. You can see now by doing that, there's a lot of holes and divots, and we'll have to adjust that as we complete the road network. I'll clean the rest up off camera, but let's go in and zone the rest of these. So now that our checkerboard is filled in, I can go in and zone the empty parts of the checkerboard. And then those should zone up just fine. what I did is I created a district theme with just the Georgian Philly row homes. So that should be the only thing that's zoning into this area. For this last block, because it's the width of the school, it's going to be a little wider than our blocks for the rest of this Harbour Park neighborhood. We can use the 3x4 variant and fill this block in. So you can see there how bumpy it is. Like I said earlier, we can just go in and just smooth the terrain out a little bit between the roads, and that'll clean up those bumps. And it's okay to have some terrain differences, but just not having it so harsh. Because this is going to be a higher density area and just more prone to fires, I think it's a good idea we fit a fire station into Harbour Park. So let's put it here, just on the corner of the Harbour Park neighborhood and just off of Sterrett Blvd. It's always nice to have a fire station accessible to a main collector in a city and get to the emergencies in a quicker fashion. Now you can see what it looks like with the blocks all done. And you can see here the realistic population showing 4 homes for the blocks. You can see the 4 doors. So it's pretty easy once you get an asset in there, even if you have realistic population. And I like realistic population mod to have the realistic city development and to have, not too many sims in one location, but sometimes it does underdo things. So whenever there's assets like this that, you can definitely see how many residents are in the asset, I like to just make the quick correction. And this area is really going to be a prime space. It's easy access to get to the city center. It's fairly convenient to get to the city park. And then it's going to be really close to the waterfront of the original Franklin port. So this area is prime for development. And I think what I'll do here is I'll speed this up into a time lapse as well, and then come back once it's all zoned up. So that gives you a sense of things. While I was zoning, I was looking here, and the traffic coming into the city from this other entry point is a little bit backed up. So I think we want to look and upgrade the road and just make this one of the 4-lane urban roads. And that provides a turning lane and just a little easier path for the cars coming into the city. So I'm going to upgrade this real quick to the big urban roads. I want to use those assets more in the cities. And we'll bring this all the way through Main Street. And then I want to look here. This central square looks really nice, and it fits the model of a northeastern city, but the traffic is flowing pretty poorly. So let's come in, and I want to make sure the traffic flowing through the square is prioritized. So we'll yield traffic entering the square using our traffic manager. And you can see already that helps everybody cycle through. Particularly the traffic that's in the square, they should have free range to roam through this. It's a square, not a circle, so the game isn't seeing it quite as efficiently as a circle would. But in real life, having a square and circle, it really works kind of the same. And I can already tell that traffic is flowing a little better through this whole pattern. But we can also come in and upgrade, I think, a little more. There's a big urban road that has 3-lane one-ways versus the vanilla 2-lane one-way roads. So that'll help giving a designated turn lane out and allow traffic to continue around the square with 2 inside lanes. And that adds quite a bit more efficiency to this. Yeah, I'm just watching it run and it looks better already. So we've improved the road layout, we've improved the entry functionality with the yields, and it just looks like it's being utilized a lot more efficiently. So we'll check back with that later as we continue to build Franklin. But coming back down to Harbour Park, the rest of this needs zoned in. So this is the plan for the rest of this area here. Harbour Park is going to be basically all residential, and there it is. We've hit small city. Population of 10,000, and this is a big one because it gives us the rail development. So among a lot of things, monorails, big business policies, and some other transportation options, the big thing is this gives us rail, and we're going to build quite significantly out into Bay County now that we've reached the industrial aid. So I'll wrap up and I'll continue zoning Harbour Park off camera, pretty much just going through that checkered pattern. But let's leave here with a cinematic view. Hey, MayorBK from the future. I was so excited to start the Harbour Park development. I forgot to finish the landscaping and detailing around the Food Lyon. So let's quickly go back to the Food Lyon property and finish up what we were working on here. Just checking, not enough workers. That'll be helped by the Harbour Park development, which is pretty close. First, let's go in, and I want to go into the building spawn point and have the garbage and cargo trucks deliver at a different point. So what I'm going to do here in building spawn points is create a duplicate, and then I can move that duplicate back through the building. It's not going to like it for a second when it's in the middle of the building and far away from roads, but you can see there it got happier once we brought it to the back. So as in real life, this is where your cargo trucks and your garbage is going to get picked up. So we want to have that back here, not cargo trucks tying up the frontage of the building. So I'll rotate this around for the spawn point, move it to one of the loading docks. I don't love that there's a light post right there, but I don't know if I can do much. And then I'll remove vehicles that can deliver to the front, like fire, police, hearse, taxi, ambulance, and just keep the cargo truck and garbage truck back here. And then I'll go into that original spawn point, remove those two, the cargo and garbage, and that will work. So now I want to make a connection to this neighborhood in the back. And then as a concession, I mentioned this earlier, to develop this property, city planners would have approved this property with significant privacy buffers for sound, light pollution. So we can come in here with some privacy trees. And what I want to do is, I could use the prop line tool, but sometimes I just like plopping these down manually. It's still not quite enough, so what I can do with move it is back this off the road now that I have a line of them, and then copy them and have another row of trees just offset. And now that gives us a pretty deep hedge line or tree line that now has a little better privacy protection. And you can imagine as those trees grow in and mature, they're going to get even fuller and more sufficiently block the back of the Food Lyon to the neighborhood. So we'll go and do this for the side. That way those houses aren't staring into the side of the Food Lyon. And then these houses too, so they're not getting extremes amount of light pollution from the parking lot. And these trees are all back far enough that, you know, the road sight lines for cars coming out of the Food Lyon are not impeded. This side, I'm not going to do a privacy border because here it's just frontage from the boulevard, and actually it's really prime frontage. So we'll leave that blank right now. This is an outlot that could be developed that Food Lyon can rent or parcel out. So we will take another row of those hedges and put it right here across from those homes as well, just to mitigate any light pollution and privacy issues for future development. But that still gives a wide buffer of Food Lyon has for frontage along Sterrett Boulevard. And I just realized here I forgot to connect the road up, so we can go in with node controller and actually just unify those two nodes, and look at that, it just popped right in. So I love the unified UI. Its toolbar has really changed the game for my playing of Cities Skylines. We can do the same here, and that didn't work as smoothly, but that's okay. Just as I was giving it high praise, of course it glitches out, but let's just try again. There we go. That worked that time perfectly. So not sure what I did that first time. It may have been a user error. I may have tried to merge like 3 nodes at once there. And I just want to check here. This actually already has a light. So even though it's not a perfect 90-degree angle slipping out of the Food Lyon parking lot, it's a pretty sharp enough angle where it's a safe enough angle for cars to turn out of. And it is a light controlled. So I was going to upgrade that to a traffic light anyway, and it already has one. So the game read my mind there. So that looks a lot better. Now the Food Lyon has a privacy buffer with the neighborhood. The other thing I need to do is we blasted this connection after we already drew it in. So I want to go back and just line it up with the intersection marking tool again. And then I'll have to check here and just make sure the traffic controls that we had in Traffic Manager are functioning. There, so that's a better detailed look at Food Lyon. And now let's end things with a cinematic view of Franklin. Thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to continuing this exciting series as we look to expand Franklin, but also look to expand outside of the city limits and into the rest of Bay County.